Hey everyone, Adrian from adrianearnshaw.com, and today we are going to revisit a classic track from Duran Duran. This is the sound that we're going to create. You may recognise this as the arpeggiator pattern from Hungry Like the Wolf, a real classic track back in the day. And speaking of back in the day, Duran Duran were the poster children of the 80s with a string of MTV era hits that still rock clubs even today. Nick Rhodes' mix of swirling atmospherics and percolating arpeggios went a long way toward establishing the band's hit-making sound. The pattern we are going to create today from Hungry Like the Wolf was originally played on a Roland Jupiter-8. Although I'm using Omnisphere today, almost any virtual analog synth will work as long as it has an arpeggiator with a random note setting. So we're just first going to initialize the patch, so we start from an absolutely brand spanking new. There we go. The first thing we're going to do now, when I say the first thing, we've already done the first thing, but this is the second thing we're going to do is set the BPM of Omnisphere to 127, which it already is. But if you don't know how to do that, just move the slider here at the bottom if you're on the standalone, which I am using today. But if you're in your DAW, just set the tempo clock to 127 BPM and Omnisphere will actually lock into that actual tempo. The reason why we're choosing 127 is this is approximately the tempo of the track. Now, as we're going to be using the same settings for both layer A and B, it is best to set the signal path and Omnisphere to shared. And you can do this by clicking on the little down arrow here and changing it to shared. And what will happen there is it'll become like a yellow border around it, and you'll see that this light goes yellow, and if I engage layer B, which I need, it'll also be yellow. So that gives you an idea as well. You'll also have the filter underlined, envelope underlined, amp. Basically what it means, whatever I change on here on the filter, envelope and amp sections, it will apply to both the layer A and B. If I had C and D engaged, it'll also apply to them, because if I go into C and D, you'll see it's all underlined. It just saves CPU cycles. It also saves having to copy any settings you make on here to each individual layer if you are going to use exactly the same settings, which we are actually going to do this on this particular sound. Well, helpfully, Omnisphere has square waves from a Jupiter-8 synthesizer, and we are going to set both layer A and B to these. And all you need to do to make sure you have the oscillators set to synth, which they are, and click the picture here, or click a little down arrow here, and then your classic waveforms, square, JP8 square, and do exactly the same on the second layer. That's a sawtooth, one square. JP8 square, there we go. Now I'm just going to work on layer A, and whatever I do on layer A now will happen on layer B. When I say that, there's one thing I do actually need to do. I need to invoke a little bit of chorusing effect. And to do a chorus effect without actually using anything from the effects section is change the fine tune to -10 and +10. And now what will happen, get like a little beating effect. That's what's actually going on there. And what we also need to do is we also need to actually apply a bit of unison. So all I'm going to do is just select unison. So that bit's done now, because it just thickens the sound of slightly the unison. And all we need is the filter section, and leave it a basic 12 decibel low pass. It's more than sufficient for this patch. We need to reduce the cutoff now to about 0.058. Just go up a little. No, there we go. 0.058. Ensure our resonance here is set to 0, and we need to alter the key tracking so the notes become bright as you move up and down the keyboard, because demonstrate what I mean. It starts getting brighter the more lower this key tracking. And we set this to 0.120. Just come all the way down, there we go. And then we need to set the envelope filter to 0.670. And just make sure it gets to 0.670, there we go. So that's done, we get this sound. It's a bit dull, but we'll fix that very shortly. So we now need to move to the amp envelope section and set the attack to 0. Decay portion needs to be set to 2.25 seconds. We turn the sustain portion of the envelope to 0 and the release to 0.173. So we've got a little bit of a tail. Now that's sorted, we're going to play with a filter so it opens a little bit more than it actually is now. And you can shape it using this filter envelope. And we're going to set the attack to 0, depth to 0.275. We are then going to set the sustain to 0 and the release to 0.270. So that's the synthesizer portion, and we get, like I say, this sound. So what we need to now do is go to the arpeggiator to get the sequence going. And we engage the sequence by just pressing this big button here. Having 4 steps is perfectly fine. We need to set this to 2 octaves and the sequence to random. Now if I play, it's a nice, lovely, plucky sound. And I'm just going to turn the length down a little bit, just to get it. That's perfect. And what we're going to do now is add a little bit of reverb. And this is the sort of like the piece de resistance of the whole thing now, because we just need a touch, not too much. And as the signal path's all being shared, we can use the common bit here and go to reverb, proverb, and just set this to around about 2. So we only need a little touch. Then if we play some E major and D major chords like this, we have the wonderful pattern from Hungry Like the Wolf. Very simple, very easy, very quick to set up. A lot of these electronic, sort of iconic tracks and sounds from the past are very basic sounds, but they're quite catchy, so it just shows that you don't need to do an awful lot of synthesizer programming to get a very good sound. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little trip down memory lane, and I would really appreciate it if you would both like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out, as it tells YouTube that people are watching these videos and are actually enjoying them. So until the next one, I will catch you then.